How are you, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, and I'm going to tell you that I did something today, and I shouldn't even bring it up that I'm doing it. I
Okay.
wore a shirt specifically to impress you because I was interviewing you, and
Right.
normally I don't do that,
Right.
but I did. But also too, and they can't see it, but I've got this awesome Masked Intruder shirt on, and I
love it.
yeah, and I just figured that would be one of those bands that you would be, very cool, like that we're a band that Rise Against played with somewhere along the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we have a Masked Intruder. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're a Fat Records band.
Yep.
And I still consider us part of the Fat Records family. Like that's where we got our start. That's who first signed our band. That's how we got our wings. You know what I mean? Was because that label was so much more than just a record label. It was a family. We joined that family, and they took us under their wing, and all their bands took us under their wing. Strung Out took us out. Sick of It All took us out. The Mad Caddies took us out. No Effects took us out. That was huge. I mean, I cannot overstate how huge that was.
How is it when you're a new punk rock band winning over those audiences? That cannot be easy, especially like a No Effects crowd where they're coming to see Mike and the guys, and they're probably not going to be particularly nice.
Yes, dude, it was. I'm glad you brought that up because that was how I learned how to be a frontman, was getting heckled.
Yeah.
Like opening up for No Effects in Western Canada in the early 2000s. Those people were there to see No Effects, and there to see Fat Mike. And we don't do what No Effects does. You know what I mean? And so You had to be able to stand there and sing and entertain for 30 minutes, whether people wanted to see you or not. Opening up for Sick of It All in Germany, like in the height of like their European domination. Though, like I got beers thrown at me, I got yelled at, like all that stuff. And that was moments like that. And then you'd shift to like the Mad Caddies tour, and they're a ska band. And so now we're opening up for a ska band, and those people came to see them. So you had to like figure out like, what are we going to do here? And those were the moments where you realize this is where I put my tail between my legs and I go home and I say, this is it. I'm not meant for this. Or you kind of like clench your fists and put your head down and lean into it, and that's what we did. And so those years were so important and like formative for me as a singer.
I remember reading Henry Rollins' book about those Black Flag tours. And, obviously I would assume that these shows were stepped down from these old Black Flag shows. But he talks about going back to flats and like literally washing out chunks of spit from people that were there not to see the guys. And I just find the intestinal fortitude, like you said, of being able to be like, all right, well, so this is how it's going to be tonight. We got to figure out how the heck we're going to get through it. But God dang it, we're going to get through it.
Absolutely. Yes. You need those. You need those concerts, those shows. You need those years to really help you figure out who you are as a band, And for us, it helps because, we stood behind the songs. We were like, these songs, we're going to play them. And for the next 30 minutes of your lives, you have us. Whether you like it or not, you have us. And I think that eventually that started to kind of pay off, and people kind of like, started nodding their heads to what they were hearing.
Dig it. Now, today is a big day in the Rise Against camp. Nowhere Generation debuted today. The album with its same name is going to come out on June the 4th. Mm-hmm. And the song is really fantastic. But I think it's very important for you to talk about the message behind this song. And I think it's better coming from you than me trying to read it from a press release,
Sure. Like this song came from, I guess I could say like our fans and our audience inspired this song in a lot of ways. So did like being a father. I have two young daughters. I think that it made me really look at the future in a whole different way. I was listening to a lot of our audience explain to me their anxieties about the future, their complaints, their concerns, and I found myself giving them advice sometimes, and I realized my advice was sort of dated. Like I was coming from a place. I grew up in an America that had economic stability, political stability, relatively, and who was I to give advice to somebody growing up in a world where we were seeing the rise of the 1%, concentrated wealth becoming a problem in America. They're growing up in a world where climate change And our response or lack of response was directly informing what tomorrow is going to look like. We're growing up in a world where there's a decay of the middle class. Upward mobility is now becoming just stagnant. And so I realized that the headwinds that I faced as a young person were not the same headwinds that young people are facing today, even if I tried to pretend like they were. These were new things. And then in some ways, these headwinds are like this current as you're swimming upstream is being orchestrated in a lot of ways. And so that is something I started to have a lot of sympathy for when I was hearing about the anxieties of young people in today's world. And so I wanted to write this song that tapped into that and tried to explain some of the weight people feel when they wake up in the morning these days.
Yeah, it's really heavy. Let me ask you as a dad, because, man, I try to, take my breaks from social media, and when things are hitting me really hard, I'll put it away. But Tim, in the back of my mind, as a dad, as a caring human being, the stuff isn't going away. You know what I mean? Just because we turn off the news for the day, how do you balance that feeling of heavy that seemingly has not left us for the last year or so? And maybe that's just from my perspective, but when we're talking about the kids, talking to our folks, everything just feels so stinking heavy. And do you feel that, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a great description of what it's like to be alive today. I think that I'm kind of an optimist in general, and what puts me into those optimist shoes is often young people. It's my own kids. It's the family of Rise Against fans. It's me and people. I think people are good. I think people are good more than they're bad. You meet people, and even if you're on a different side of the fence than somebody, you meet people who really just care about the world around them, their families, what life is going to look like tomorrow. We may have different opinions on how to get to that place, but a lot of times we want the same things, Right. And when I meet young people, I feel like I get to meet really vibrant, energetic people who want to put their hands on the steering wheel of history and make changes, and so that stuff really makes me hopeful.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people from previous generations who are very confused. You have an older generation who is trying to desperately hold on to power and do things the way they've always been done, but they are slowly losing control, and I think young people who have a better idea of the way the world should work are going to be the ones that kind of grab the spotlight pretty soon.
Yeah, I'd say Rise Against is a very unique band in my household because my oldest son is about to turn 21. And so you are the first punk band that he and I like together. And I'll tell you, when I first heard him listening to you, I took a deep breath. I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I knew the messages that were going into his head, and it made me feel good that it was going to be backing up a lot of the stuff that we were teaching him at home. But one of the things that I was thinking about, man, is Rise Against is probably my favorite melodic type punk band. Who was your favorite? Who was the one, and not just a punk band, but a melodic one that you kind of feel like Rise Against might have patterned yourself after in one way, shape, or form? And then I know I got to let you go because you're on a tight time frame today.
If I had to pick one, that's hard. I think the band that I thought was so adept at melody and aggressive energy was Fugazi for me. And especially coming from a Big Minor Threat fan, to see Fugazi play with these melodies and be unafraid to get into almost reggae-ish kind of songs, that was really inspiring. So if I had to pick one, it might be Fugazi. One of my favorite power.
We got Tim freezing over there. Oh, okay. Oh, Tim, you're there.
Oh, am I here?
Yep, sorry. You're there. Yeah. You're there. I think we just had a little pause.
Oh, all good. I would say Fugazi or Peg Boy. One of those. That's my general soundbite.
and what's so great too about music is I don't know much about Peg Boy, and as soon as this interview is over, I am going to go search that out. And that's what makes what we do fantastic. Listen, Nowhere Generation is out on June the 4th. That is the name of the record. Single is out now, and it's awesome, and we're going to play it. And Tim, really great to have you, and enjoy the rest of your day, man.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks to everybody who's watching and listening. We appreciate it.